What is going on, everybody? How's everybody doing? And welcome to the Young Brother of Soul podcast show. Oh, y'all want to know who it is? I think some of y'all already know who it is, right? Well, it is me, your guy, the Young Brother of Soul. First and foremost, I want to say I did not forget about another good friend of mine who says that they want to be on the Young Brother of Soul podcast show. And of course, I did not forget about any of my wonderful family members. I even have more family members say they want to be on the Young Brother of Soul podcast show. So I definitely have no problem with that. Definitely no problem with that. I also want to give a shout out to my hometown team, well, basketball team, Philadelphia 76ers. I know it's the beginning of the season, but so far so good. So far so good. So far so good. Speaking of basketball, on today's episode, what I'm going to be talking about is NBA rivalries. Now, of course, everybody knows that I'm not really a big basketball guy, but certain things when it comes to the NBA history I like about. But I'm going to give it a try. Am I right or am I wrong? Okay, we're going to give it a try. So, like I said, I'm going to be talking about rivalries in the NBA. Starting off with this top rivalry is one of the most intense rivalries of all time. And not only that, that this is the top, to me, the most intense rivalry in the NBA. These two always, always faced each other. Believe it or not, the top rivalry that I'm going to be talking about, the Boston Celtics versus the LA Lakers. Now, these two, as I said before in another episode, these two were always in the finals. Okay? Believe it or not, before they met in the finals, they actually met in 1948. And this rivalry has been going on ever since. The Celtics lead the all-time series between these two. And they also lead the all-time postseason records against the Lakers. And not only that, there are over 375 meetings between these two. And trust me, there are going to be more and more and more and more. And not only that, if the Lakers wasn't in the finals, the Celtics were in the finals. And if the Celtics wasn't in the finals, the Lakers were in the finals. Yeah. I mean, those two franchises, they are like two of the most successful franchises in the NBA. Top. And not only that, did everybody know, what should I say, did anybody know that the Lakers were the first dynasty in the NBA? Believe it or not, the Lakers used to play in Minneapolis when they were the Minneapolis Lakers, where they won 5 NBA championships. The first dynasty in the NBA. And then, of course, the Celtics were the second dynasty in the NBA. Between the 50s and the 60s, 70s, 80s, not the 90s though. Not the 90s. Those years were the only time that the Lakers and the Celtics did not win a championship, believe it or not. And then, of course, you have the 2000s and the 2010s. So, these two first met in the 1959 NBA Finals, which the Celtics defeated the Lakers 4 games to none. And not only that, they would meet again in the NBA Finals 1962, 1963, 1965, 1966, 1968, and 1969, where all of those victories were won by the Boston Celtics. Yeah, they faced each other so many times in the 60s. And of course, the Celtics winning all of those championships in the 1960s. I believe they won 8 straight. Yeah. Well, back in those times, they didn't have as many teams like they did today. I believe there are 30 NBA teams. Correct me if I'm wrong. Leave a comment. The rivalry definitely got more intense when there were two superstars facing against each other. And they are Larry Bird and Magic Johnson. Now, these two faced off in college, but they definitely would face off against each other in the NBA, as Larry Bird would play with the Boston Celtics and Magic Johnson would play with the LA Lakers. And believe it or not, these two first met in the 1984 NBA Finals. And the Celtics defeated the Lakers 4 games to 3. Game 7. Game 7, for some reason, the Celtics had the Lakers number for a long, long, long time. But that streak did come to an end. Yes, it did. In 1985, the LA Lakers finally defeated the Boston Celtics in the NBA Finals in 4 games to 2. Of course, Magic Johnson and his teams did their thing. But guess what? In 1987, the Lakers would defeat the Celtics in the finals for a second time, 4 games to 2. Now, that rivalry did slow down for quite some time in the NBA Finals. Of course, they faced each other in a regular season. But in the year 2008, the Lakers and the Celtics would face each other in the NBA Finals once again. And believe it or not, the Celtics defeated the LA Lakers. I mean, the Celtics had Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce, Ray Allen, Rajon Rondo, Kendrick Perkins. Yeah, they defeated them. But these two would face each other in the NBA Finals in the year 2010, which is the last time that these two faced each other in the finals. Believe it or not, the Lakers have finally defeated the Celtics in a Game 7 in the NBA Finals. Of course, Kobe did his thing. And believe it or not, the Celtics have 18 championships, while the Lakers have 17 championships. So those two are always going to go neck to neck to neck to neck to neck. But, like I said, in 2010, that was the last time that these two faced each other in the NBA Finals. Now, they still do face each other in the regular postseason. Well, I shouldn't say regular postseason. In the regular season, as I should say. They're always going to face each other in the regular season. But, I didn't really mean to say postseason. But, do you think that these two will ever face each other in the NBA Finals again? Maybe. Maybe not. Believe it or not, the Lakers did win the NBA championships in 2020, and the Celtics won in 2024. So, you tell me, not against each other though, you tell me, do you think that these two will face each other again? Leave a comment and let me know. hmm Another great rivalry in the NBA that is very intense is the Chicago Bulls and the Detroit Pistons. Now, these two first met in 1966. And believe it or not, the Pistons actually defeated the Bulls. But they had over 320 meetings. Trust me, this rivalry is not going to stop. They did face off each other in the playoffs. In the 1974 playoffs, the Bulls defeated the Pistons in the Western Conference semifinals. Now, before I go on with the other times they met in the playoffs, the Bulls and the Pistons were actually in the Western Conference at one point in the 1960s and the 70s. The only reason why they were in the Western Conference is because they didn't have as many teams, like I said before, like they do today, which I believe is 30. If, like I said, correct me if I'm wrong. That is until the 1980s where they both would move to the Eastern Conference. But that rivalry definitely would get more intense. In 1988, the Pistons defeated the Bulls in the Eastern Conference semifinals. But in 1989 and 1990, the Pistons defeated the Bulls in the Eastern Conference finals, which they went on back to back NBA champions. That is until the year 1991 when the Bulls finally defeated the Pistons in the Eastern Conference finals. Not only that they defeated them, they swept them, and the Bulls would go on and win their first championship, which was the beginning of their dynasty. Of course, like I said, the rivalry definitely got intense when they moved to the Eastern Conference because you had the bad boy Pistons who would just hit anybody whenever they're going to lay up. I mean, come on, man. Like, is there any need for that? But back in the day, basketball was very physical. I mean, it is today, but not like back in the day. Like, everybody just do whatever they want and, they start fighting. But those bad boy Pistons would face Michael Jordan and the Chicago Bulls. Yeah. Yeah. They definitely would meet again in the playoffs in 2007 Eastern Conference semifinals where the Pistons defeated the Bulls. Now, believe it or not, this was actually the last time that these two faced off against each other in the playoffs in 2007. They are, as I believe, in the same division, if I'm not mistaken. Now, will this be the last time that these two face off against it in the playoffs? Who knows? Because the last time was in 2007. But this rivalry definitely goes deeper and deeper and deeper. Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Another great rivalry in the NBA is the New York Knicks versus the Brooklyn Nets. Now, before I go on with this rivalry, these two actually first met in 1976. And the Nets were the New York Nets, which were ABA. Of course, we all know the ABA was the American Basketball Association, which was a good basketball league, believe it or not. It has quite some players to the merge to the NBA. Well, in 1976, the Nets would move to the Madison Square Garden, which where they would stay for one season. The only reason why they stayed for one season is because the Knicks got tired of sharing the Madison Square Garden arena with the Nets because that was always their home. Why do I have to share my home with you? We always been here, which is quite understanding. That is until the year 1977 where the Nets would relocate to New Jersey, where they became the New Jersey Nets. Now, this rivalry definitely kept going as we have New York versus New Jersey versus New York. And not only that, these two only met in the playoffs three times 1983 and 1994, where the Knicks defeated the Nets in the first round, and it would reverse because in 2004, the New Jersey Nets would defeat the Knicks in the first round where they got swept. Now, you want to talk about intense? This rivalry definitely got more intense when the Nets would relocate to Brooklyn, New York. In 2012, the Nets relocated to Brooklyn, where they become as if right now I shouldn't say as of today, but as of right now, I think y'all know what I was talking about. The Brooklyn Nets. Now, I'm still trying to understand how do you go from one state to another, then go back to the same state. I mean, New York fans, you guys are so spoiled. I mean, all them teams you got between you and LA, Lord have mercy. I don't know what to say about you guys, but I'm going to just leave it at that. But the last time that these two faced off each other in the playoffs was 2004. Will these two ever face each other in the playoff again? I don't know. But if I was from New York, I'd rather be a Knicks fan than a Nets fan. I mean, the Knicks are always a better team than the Nets. I mean, they've been there longer, and the Nets were in the ABA. Like I said, the ABA was very exciting back in the day. They had a different color basketball compared to what the basketball looks now. So yeah, yeah, that rivalry is definitely going to keep going on because it is the battle of New York versus New York. Who is the king of New York between the Knicks and the Nets? It's the Knicks, like I said. But hey, the rivalry is going to keep going because they're in the same state. Another great rivalry in the NBA that a lot of people don't really talk about, to me, is the Sacramento Kings versus the Golden State Warriors. Now, believe it or not, these two actually first met in the year 1948. Of course, the Warriors lead the all time series, and believe it or not, these two weren't always in the Western Conference. These two were in the Eastern Conference at one point. They were the Rochester Royals versus the Philadelphia Warriors. Well, that all would change once these two would relocate to the Western Conference. That might be another episode that I might do for a few sports teams that relocated. Oh boy, we're going to talk about that. And believe it or not, these two only met one time in the NBA playoffs. One time. And that was the 2023 first round. And believe it or not, that game went to a game seven. One thing I could say about that, the Kings put up a good fight against the Warriors. Not only that, they were the defending NBA champions. But yeah, the Kings put up a good fight. I mean, they forced a game seven. If you force a game seven in the playoffs, especially championships, you put up a good fight. That's a good series right there. Whenever games go to a game seven, you put up a good fight. Yeah, you do. Yeah, you do. Well, these two would meet in the 2024 NBA tournament where the Kings defeated the Warriors. You know, the NBA started this in tournament and stuff. I don't understand it. I really don't. I mean, you already got the championship. What do you have to have it in tournament for? But you know, it's the NBA. I can't say nothing because I can't do nothing about it. But can you imagine if the NFL had an in-season tournament? I don't think that would work. Or hockey, or even baseball. I don't think it would definitely work. I mean, it's the NBA. Yeah. Another great rivalry that we're going to talk about is the LA Lakers and the Golden State Warriors. Now, these two first met in the year 1948. Of course, the Lakers lead the all-time series against the Warriors. And they met in the playoffs 9 times. Now, these two first met when they were the Minneapolis Lakers and the Philadelphia Warriors. And believe it or not, the Lakers have actually defeated the Warriors 5 times in the Western Conference semifinals. And they will also defeat them twice in the Western Conference finals. The Warriors only defeated the Lakers one time in the playoffs, and that was in 1967. Well, at that time, they were the San Francisco Warriors when they relocated. Well, but they only met 8 times in the NBA playoffs. But like I said, this rivalry goes back when they were Minneapolis versus Philadelphia. They had some great rivalries back in the day. And not only that, this rivalry is still going on to this day. How can I say this? You have the battle of the state of California, which California has so many sports teams. Oh my God. Like I said, it's between New York and California. Yeah, I'm gonna just leave it at that. Yeah. And of course, the Lakers lead the all-time postseason between those two in the playoffs. But I mean, seriously, who, like, the Lakers always have a rivalry with somebody. And not only that they always have a rivalry with somebody, they were always the team that always defeated the other team until this team defeated them quite some time. Now, of course, they lead the all time series in this next rivalry. And of course, they lead the all time postseason rivalry. But the next rivalry that I'm going to be talking about is the LA Lakers versus the San Antonio Spurs. Now, these two first met in 1976. And believe it or not, the San Antonio Spurs were also an ABA team. We had quite a few ABA teams that switched over to the NBA. And believe it or not, these two actually met 12 times in the playoffs. Now, of course, they faced each other quite a few times in the regular season, but they met 12 times in the NBA playoffs in the Western side. They first met in 1982 in the Western Conference Finals, where the Lakers defeated the Spurs, and they met again in 1983 in the Western Conference Finals, where the Lakers would defeat the Spurs again, and they had a winning streak on them in 1986 and 1988, where they defeated the Spurs in the Western Conference first round. That is until the year 1995, where the Spurs will finally get their revenge against the Lakers, where they defeated them in the Western Conference semifinals. Now, these two definitely met in the 2001 Western Conference Finals. Of course, the Lakers went on a winning streak that year. They swept everybody. Well, we'll talk about that another time, where they swept the Spurs and to go on against the NBA Finals against my hometown team. But the Spurs will return another playoff victory over the Lakers. That would be in 1999 when they won the NBA Finals, their first. And of course, 2001, where the Lakers would win. Yeah. Boy, oh boy. They defeated the. Before I go on with the defeats, as I should say, this rivalry definitely got more intense when you had excuse me, Kobe and Shaq. I was about to say Shaq and Kobe, but Kobe and Shaq against Tim Duncan, Manu Ginobili, Tony Parker, David Robinson. Yeah, they were the years of 2000 and the 2010s dynasty, where they won five and they won five. Spurs won five, Lakers won five in the 2000s. And believe it or not, the last time that these two would face off against each other, well, before that, of course, the Lakers defeated them in the 2008 Western Conference Finals. But the last time that these two would meet in the NBA playoffs would be in the year 2013, where the Spurs swept the Lakers in the first round of the playoffs. Now, this rivalry definitely is going on and on and on and on and on during the regular season. Now, will these two ever meet in the playoffs again? They might. We're just going to have to see and find out. Yeah. Another great rivalry that begins in the NBA Finals, which is like your most recent, the Cleveland Cavaliers versus the Golden State Warriors. Now, these two actually first met in the regular season of the year 1970. And believe it or not, Golden State leads the all-time series against the Cavaliers. And they will also lead the all-time postseason against the Cavaliers. which is the finals. These two first met in the 2015 NBA Finals where the Warriors defeated the Cavaliers 4 games to 2. That is until the year 2016 when Golden State actually had a 3-1 lead series in the finals. Believe it or not, the Cavaliers came back, forced a game 7, and LeBron James finally brought Cleveland an NBA championship. Yeah, finally brought them one. Stephen Curry. I know he was a little hurt about that, but they would get their revenge against the Cavaliers again in the year 2017, where they defeated the Cavaliers 4 games to 1. Of course, Kevin Durant joining that team. And they would defeat them again in the 2018 NBA Championship, where they swept the Cavaliers. So that is your most recent dynasty in the NBA, the Golden State Warriors. Now, will these two ever meet in the NBA championship again? Who knows? But they definitely are going to keep meeting each other in the NBA regular season. Stephen Curry is a good basketball player. Yeah, yeah. Another great, well, one of the most intense rivalries of all time is my hometown team, the Philadelphia 76ers, versus the Boston Celtics. Now, these two actually first met in 1949. Believe it or not, before they were called the Philadelphia 76ers, they were called the Syracuse Nationals, where they would relocate. But we all know the Celtics leads the all-time series against the Sixers. And of course, they lead the all-time postseason record against the Sixers. Now, these two actually first met in the playoffs in 1953, where the Celtics would defeat the Nationals. They met 22 times, like I said before, if I didn't, but they met 22 times. And of course, the Celtics will always get over the Sixers. Yeah. That is until 1977, where the Sixers defeated the Celtics in the playoffs. And they also would defeat them in the 1980 and the 82 Western Conference Finals. Did I say Western Conference Finals? Eastern Conference Finals. I apologize for that. And then again, the Celtics would defeat the Sixers in the 1985 Eastern Conference Finals. But before we go on and on and on, this rivalry definitely got more intense when you had Wilt Chamberlain versus Bill Russell. Yeah, the two tallest guys at the time. Well, one of the two tallest guys. You get what I'm saying. And believe it or not, the last time that these two faced off against each other in the NBA playoffs was in 2023. The Sixers forced a game 7, but the Celtics found a way to win. So, yeah. Yeah. This rivalry definitely is going on to this day. They have over, how can I say, over 500, almost 590 meetings. This rivalry is definitely going to keep going. Now, will these two ever meet in the playoffs again? Who knows? I just hope the Sixers would win. Yeah, 18 championships to 3. So, yeah. But before we go on to the next rivalry, I just wanted to say that the Celtics also defeated the Sixers in the Eastern Conference Finals in the 1960s about 3-4 times. That is until 1967. The Sixers finally got the Celtics, and they would go on and win a championship. But like I said, this rivalry is not going nowhere. No. Another great rivalry in the NBA is, it's another battle state of California. Sacramento Kings versus the LA Lakers. Now, believe it or not, these two first met in the year 1948, where they were the Rochester Royals and the Minneapolis Lakers. And of course, the Lakers lead the all time series over the Kings. And they definitely would lead the all time post series record against the Kings. These two actually met in the playoffs 9 times. Of course, like I said, the Lakers will always come over the Kings. They actually first met in the playoffs in 1949. They met 4 times in the Western Conference Finals, where the Lakers would defeat the Kings 2 first rounds, playoffs, and 1 Western Conference semifinals, all won by the Lakers. And believe it or not, the Kings will actually defeat the Lakers 1 time in the 1951 Western Conference Finals, which the Rochester Royals will go on and win the NBA championship. Now, believe it or not, these two have over 490 total meetings. Now, this rivalry is definitely going to go on because it got real intense in the 2002 Western Conference Finals. They said there was a lot of controversial calls going on in that game, which the Lakers will go on and win their third straight NBA championship. Now, will these two ever meet in the NBA playoffs again? Who knows? But all I know is this rivalry definitely goes on because they play each other in the regular season. Yeah, in the regular season. Yes. Sacramento Kings, LA Lakers. Yeah. 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 Mm-hmm. You ain't hear nothing. Another great rivalry in the NBA is you ain't see that neither. The Boston Celtics versus the New York Knicks. Of course, it's Boston versus New York. New York versus Boston. Now, these two first met in the year 1946. And believe it or not, Boston leads the all-time series against the Knicks. And they also lead the all-time postseason record. And these two actually met in the playoffs 16 times. Each both have 8 wins. Believe it or not, the Celtics actually defeated the Knicks 2 times in the Eastern Conference semifinals, and they will also defeat them 2 times in the Western Conference finals. Why do I keep saying Western Conference finals? Eastern Conference finals. And of course, the Knicks would defeat the Celtics in 3 Eastern Conference semifinals, and they would defeat the Celtics 3 times in the Eastern Conference finals. And they both defeated each other twice in the first round playoff. Larry Bird, you know, Patrick Ewing, the 1970s Knicks and the Celtics, they definitely were good because the Knicks won 2 championships in the 1970s and the Celtics won 2 championships in the 1970s. Now, like I said, New York versus Boston, Boston versus New York. This rivalry definitely is going to keep going on. Now, will these two ever meet in the playoffs again? Yeah, they will. Believe it or not, the last time that these two faced each other, the Knicks actually defeated the Celtics. So, they're going to meet each other in the playoffs again. Don't know when, but they definitely will. They definitely will. And last but not least, another great rivalry in the NBA is the LA Lakers versus the Detroit Pistons. Now, these two first met in 1948. Indianapolis Lakers versus the Fort Wayne Pistons. And of course, the Lakers lead the all time series against the Pistons. And they also lead the postseason record against the Pistons. Now, believe it or not, like I said before earlier, the Pistons used to play in the Western Conference. And the Lakers actually defeated the Pistons 3 times in the Western Conference Finals, 4 times in the Western Conference semifinals. And then, of course, the Lakers, well, before I go on there, the Pistons actually defeated the Lakers 1 time in the Western Conference Finals. I believe when they were the Fort Wayne Pistons in 1955. That is until the 1980s, where the Pistons would join the Eastern Conference. Believe it or not, these two actually met 3 times in the NBA Finals. 1988, the Lakers would defeat the Pistons 4 games to 3. That would be Magic Johnson's 5th championship ring, and of course Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's 6th. They would face off against each other in the finals again in 1989, where the Pistons swept the Lakers. Pistons got their revenge back. I think so many teams got their revenge against the Lakers in the finals. The Knicks did it. Sixers did it. Pistons, Celtics. Yeah, so many teams, well, that I seen get their revenge against the Lakers. Yeah. They will also meet one more time in the 2004 NBA Finals, where the Pistons defeated the LA Lakers 4 games to 1. Now, believe it or not, that LA Lakers team in 2004, they were kind of loaded. They had Kobe Bryant, Shaq, Karl Malone, Gary Payton, but they could not defeat Rasheed Wallace, Rick Hamilton, Chauncey Billups, and the Pistons. The Pistons actually beat them 4 games to 1. Yeah, that was actually a good finals between those two. And that was the last time that these two ever faced off against each other in the NBA Finals in 2004. Now, this rivalry definitely is going to keep going on because they play against each other in the regular season. Now, will this be the last time that these two face off against each other in the NBA Finals? I mean, it's been a very long time, but we don't know. It may or may not happen. Yeah. Some honorable mentions that I want to give to NBA rivalry is Chicago Bulls versus the Cleveland Cavaliers. I don't know what happened right there. Of course, these two faced off against each other quite a few times in the playoffs. Michael Jordan and the Bulls defeated the Cavaliers. Of course, the Bulls lead the all-time series in the playoffs and the all-time series. But that is until LeBron James and the Cavaliers defeated the Chicago Bulls twice in the playoffs. They definitely going to keep facing each other. I don't know about in the playoffs, but they definitely going to keep facing each other. Another honorable mention is the Indiana Pacers versus the Detroit Pistons. Now, I got a question for y'all. Do y'all remember the 2004 Malice in the Palace? When y'all get a chance, look that up between the Pistons and the Pacers. That was the most talked about, and it still is the most talked about top fight in the NBA. Everybody talked about that the day after. Players versus fans, fans versus players, players versus players. That fight was crazy. Make sure y'all check out that fight. It was in 2004, November of 2004, if I'm not mistaken. That was the biggest fight in the NBA. Like I said, everybody talked about it. Yeah, look it up. Celtics Boston Celtics, as I should say, versus the Miami Heat. Now, believe it or not, this rivalry is definitely getting greater and greater and greater. These two will always face off against each other in the Eastern Conference Finals, where one team would win, another team would win, one team would win, another team would win. This is definitely a great rivalry between them. Of course, Boston leads the all-time series, and will these two ever face off against each other in the Eastern Conference Finals again? Who knows? But they definitely do face each other in the regular season. But I think that they will face off against each other in the playoffs. But like I said, the Eastern Conference Finals, we shall see. Another great rivalry, honorable mention that I should mention is the LA Lakers, Phoenix Suns. Of course, Kobe and the Lakers will always defeat Steve Nash and Amari Stoudemire in the playoffs. I mean, yeah, the Suns, they had some good teams, but for some reason they can't do it. So I'm going to just leave it at that. Another honorable mention of a rivalry in the NBA is Dallas Mavericks versus the San Antonio Spurs versus the Houston Rockets. Now, all three of those teams represent the state of Texas. But one is in Dallas, one is in San Antonio, and one is in Houston. Now, believe it or not, these two actually have 8 championships combined altogether. When these two face off against each other, boy, the state of Texas rises up and clap and love it when these three face off against each. Well, not. Well, you get what I'm saying. One face against another, another. You get what I'm saying. And the last honorable mention NBA rivalry is the LA Lakers, who always have a rivalry with somebody, like I said before, versus the LA Clippers. Now, this is the battle of the city of LA. Now, we already know that the Lakers lead the all-time series versus the Clippers. These two actually first met when they were the Buffalo Braves. Then they would relocate to San Diego, became the San Diego Clippers. Then they would relocate to LA. And of course, who has more championships? 18 Lakers compared to the Clippers? None. So, yeah. Of course, the Lakers are a better team than the Clippers. Everybody knows that. 18 championships. Did I say 18? 17 championships. I'm sorry, Boston Celtics fans. Y'all have 18 while the Lakers have 17. I apologize for that. 17 championships compared to none. Yeah, we already know the Lakers are way better than the Clippers. I don't even know why the Clippers would move to LA. They should have stayed in San Diego. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that is the end of the Young Brother Soul episode of NBA rivalries. Before we leave, make sure you hit that subscribe button, leave a thumbs up, leave a comment, hit that notification button, and make sure y'all tune in for another episode of the Young Brother Soul podcast show. Everybody stay safe. Good night. Enjoy the rest of your night. Oh, and one more thing. There will be another episode coming up. I don't know when, but it's coming up pretty soon. Y'all have a good one. Thank you.